Hello and welcome to week 5 of PUBH 612. Today we will review program theory and interventions. The learning objectives for this week are to understand the program theories in planning and evaluating a health program, to utilize a program theory for development of an intervention, to utilize development of program theory as a communication and consensus building activity, and to distinguish between process and effect components of a health program. After identifying what health problem is the highest priority and defining what community you're working with, it's time to describe what could have caused the problem through a program theory. A theory is a set description of how something works. It is a set of hypotheses about what will happen in the relationships between the different variables. Here is a model of a program theory. A program theory is a conceptual plan with details about the program and how it's expected to work. You're probably familiar with a more comprehensive version of how the program is supposed to work, which is called a logic model, or also called a program model. In the graphic, you can see there are two main components of the program theory. The left side, which is about resources and actions, is called the process theory. And the right side, which is about interventions and outcomes, is called effect theory. Both a program theory and logic model are roadmaps to creating a successful program. Process theory includes three components listed here: an organizational plan, service utilization plan, and specific outputs, the specifications of their outputs. The organizational plan and service utilization plan are both inputs, and the outputs are byproducts of the inputs. The organizational plan includes things such as personnel, organizational resources, and their capacity to deliver the program. If staff members aren't supported by management, then they can't deliver the intervention as planned. Service utilization plans outline how the target audience will be reached and how the intervention will be delivered. This is the nuts and bolts of implementing the plan. How will they recruit on social media? Who will be screened? When and where will the program be available? And any other logistics will also be spelled out here. So essentially, it's the 5 W's of the program: the who, what, where, when, why. The theory should also specify what will be accomplished by the program. What results can be expected once the service utilization plan is implemented? Effect theory includes explanations of how the program interventions will affect the causal factors and other variables impacting the health outcome, and describes the relationship between the intervention and the desired immediate and long-term outcomes for participants. The three theories listed here constitute an effect theory: the theory of causal or determinant factors, the theory of intervention mechanisms, and the theory of outcome or to impact. These theories are often implicitly stated or known by program staff, but it's helpful to outline them explicitly, which can enable staff or planners to further refine the program. These three theories and the informal hypotheses make up the effect theory. Once you've identified which intervention you want to implement and at what level you want to effect change, primary, secondary, or tertiary prevention, it's time to think about how you'll administer the intervention and at what dosage. Dosage refers to the amount and strength of the intervention, with a minimum dosage presumed to have an effect. In your textbook, they provide an example of a stress reduction mindfulness program, where the dosage is described as meditating 3 times a week for a minimum of 50 minutes each time over an 8-week period. Other elements of dosage include how the intervention is administered, is it a mindfulness app, and the credibility of the program. For instance, is the meditation guided by a health professional or expert who's providing credible guidance in how to meditate? Here is a list of criteria for good interventions. One criteria is if the intervention is evidence-based. The increased awareness of the need to have evidence-based interventions has led to an increase in the number of meta-analyses and literature reviews documenting what interventions are most effective for different health issues. A good intervention should also be tailored to the intended population. This includes adapting the program for cultural sensitivity, appropriate language, group similarity, cultural beliefs, and ethnic values. Tailoring can occur by modifying the intervention to fit the audience or by screening participants for eligibility based on important characteristics. The intervention should be conducive to health gains. The problem must be able to be changed with the available knowledge of how to change it. For example, the Drug Abuse Resistance Education Program, otherwise known as the DARE program, was widely implemented across the country, but it wasn't effective. The intervention should also be malleable, and it should be politically feasible. Not all interventions are equally acceptable. For example, I was working on a project which was building bike lanes in New York City. When I asked the Department of Transportation Commissioner why they didn't build more bike lanes in New York City, it wasn't money which prohibited putting bike lanes on streets. It was vocal opposition from some members of community boards, and they are important stakeholders in the community. Lastly, the intervention should address societal problems. It should be working to address an issue which people agree is important. Here are some steps to successfully achieve the desired outcomes and impacts from a health program. First, as we previously discussed, you should generate an effect theory with causal, intervention, and impact theories so you have a roadmap of what you want to do. You should also involve key stakeholders and encourage them to become invested in the health problem. This step is critical to having a politically feasible intervention. Program planners should review published peer-reviewed articles across disciplines to help generate theories and provide information which can be used to develop the causal and impact theories. It's helpful also to draw a visual map of the chain of events. If it's not feasible to include every possible variable in your causal diagram, but you should select the most relevant ones based on your literature review for your causal diagram. Lastly, you want to check your program and effect theory against alternative assumptions about theories. One assumption is that the theory is really about the phenomenon of interest. Another assumption relates to parsimony. Parsimony is a crucial characteristic of good theory. Focusing on the most important factors about the target population helps achieve parsimony. Table 5-2 from your text can help you to be aware of the differences among espoused theories, theories in use, and effect theories. If the program has been in existence for a while, you can look up the program results to date and see if you want to incorporate or exclude the theory in use. Modifying the program based on practical experience gained through theory in use may be efficient and helpful if the theory has the desired effect on program participants. Having a clearly defined program theory serves several purposes. One is to provide guidance in program design. If the theory is difficult to develop, it may be a sign that the health problem has not been sufficiently narrowed, or the intended audience not specific enough, or maybe too many program elements have been included. Once you have a well-defined program theory, it can be used to guide what you measure and how to evaluate the program. A sound theory can also enable explanations of findings and identify which interventions are likely to have the greatest impact on the program participants, and clarify how the intervention causes the desired effects in participants. These can be used to explain the process or effect theory failure. Program theory can be used as a basis for communication, especially with organizational or legislative policymakers who need to understand the underpinnings of your program and only have time to read or hear one quick statement and decide if they want to fund it. A program theory also aids leaders in reproducing the program elsewhere and can make a scientific contribution to the field, because every program is an experiment that tests the program theory. Here you can see a graphic depiction of how program theory enables evaluators to distinguish between process theory failure and effect theory failure. A program can fail because of an ineffective intervention, which is an effect theory failure, or because the program was not provided, which would be a process theory failure. In summary, the key takeaways for this week are that the theory development phase of program planning requires thinking rather than doing, and it often receives less attention than is needed. Using a systematic approach to develop a theory and engage stakeholders in the development of the theory has big long-term payoffs that outweigh costs associated with developing the theory or any delay. The choice of an intervention or package of interventions can be evaluated against a set criteria for useful interventions. And I hope you find the characteristics of a good intervention, which were discussed in this lecture, useful as you think of developing your own interventions in the future. Here are some additional resources which you can check out online. And that's going to be it for this week. Please check Blackboard for additional materials.